cool thing is that it's all focused on helping people share their experiences. So it's really getting away from who's right and who's wrong, but trying to help people see things through the perspective of why they believe the way they believe.
I really like that we were able to talk about just race in general. I feel like that's something that people don't talk about, and that's something that we need to talk about more. I really like that we were given the opportunity to just have those conversations, because there are a lot of questions and are a lot of things that like people just don't know, and I think it's just because we're not educated enough in that sense, and I think it's because we're not willing to sit down and have these hard conversations. And they don't really need to be hard conversations, they just need to be conversations that are had. And I feel like just like in a social setting, we go through our day-to-day lives and we don't really discuss bigger topics. So I really like that I was given the opportunity to talk about a bigger topic.
I feel like in our group we had a really great group of people who was willing to make the most out of these conversations that we had. And so we tried to include people of different backgrounds, whether it was races or just where they grew up. And so everyone had a different experience to share, and some people had experienced racism personally more than others. But I feel like everyone did feel safe sharing, and they were open and honest.
It was interesting. I got a lot of like perspectives that were like things that I have never experienced, and there was also things that I have experienced but I'd never looked at them that way before. One of our participants, he was born and raised in Mexico, and so he moved here to the United States, and he had a lot of interesting insight into like hearing about racism, because people didn't talk about racism so much where he lived. And so it was interesting to hear what he thought about it and how he perceived it as compared to, me being born and raised in Utah, and just how your different backgrounds shape that perspective.
I think it's like a defense mechanism that people will like assume that the other side just like hates them or things like that. And I think that that's how people justify not having these conversations, because at the COVID conversation, in the group I was placed in, everybody looked kind of different, and I like made assumptions about what people would say and what kind of opinions they would have. I was able to see how people were not necessarily how they appeared.
Came away from it with not only with a deeper compassion and for people who do struggle with disorders in regards to their mental health, but also I was really inspired by seeing some of the people who had come to the campus conversation who did have problems with depression or anxiety, and to see their academic success and hear their success stories about how they had been able to deal with these issues. I was like, that's pretty cool.
My main takeaway, I think, would be is that as much as you think you're opinionated, or as much as you think you know about something, unless you've lived it for yourself, you probably don't. And so I think it's really effective to take a minute and think about like what you strongly believe or strongly feel. Think about why you feel that way, and consider the possibility that you might be wrong.
I think my main takeaway was that I still have a lot of room for improvement, which I think is important, because now I can take that and realize that my opinion is not the same as everybody else's, and be okay with that and be willing to listen to others and to learn more.
I learned that conversations that are difficult to have often leave you feeling the best afterwards, and it's difficult to start these conversations. It's hard to sit down and dig into something so heavy, but I feel like if we're willing to do it outside of the context of this project with our friends and family, that's going to lead to the kind of change that we are hoping to see.